Welcome everyone. My name is Anna Livingston and I will be the chair and moderator for today's webinar for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. Today's seminar is Driving Mobility and Independence through the Use of Smart Assistive Technology. This webinar is part of a series being facilitated by Community Resourcing. At Community Resourcing, we use our international expertise and networks to build community capacity through empowerment, knowledge transfer, skills enhancement, and importantly for us, research and development projects. Our Community Resourcing has been funded by the Queensland Government to bring together an online platform for community care service providers who are interested in collaborating on issues and practices related to smart assistive technology application. We're very honoured that this project has been awarded the ICT Innovative Entrepreneurial Award at the recent ITAC conference, as well as being acknowledged in Advanced Queensland Digital Champions program. Today's session has again been oversubscribed, and we believe that this indicates the high level of interest of incorporating innovation into practice in community care. In particular, I note that today's webinar is subscribed by individuals and organisations nationally and internationally. As attendees at today's session, and in the interest of recording, we have muted your microphones, but we encourage you to ask questions throughout the session via the question pane on the dashboard to the right of your screen. At the end of the session, there will be an opportunity to have these questions answered, and any questions that we don't get to in the context of this webinar we'll follow up offline. Today's session will be delivered by Kristee and Genny Kroll-Rosen. In today's session, our presenters will discuss how smart assistive technology is revolutionising and driving changes in the management of mobility. In particular, their presentation will focus on individuals with spinal injuries. By way of introduction, our presenters, Kristee is the Managing Director of Making Strides and has been living with a spinal cord injury for the past 12 years. Her primary motivation for her involvement in this company is to ensure that herself and others can have access to rehabilitation methods previously only available overseas. Prior to starting with Making Strides, Kristee worked in a fundraising and marketing role with Spinal Life Australia, as well as volunteered in their schools-based injury prevention program. Our other co-presenter, Genny, is also a co-director of Making Strides. Genny hails from California in the USA and has a bachelor undergraduate and a master's degree in human movement with an emphasis in sports psychology. Genny was a specialist trainer at the world-renowned Project Work headquarters in San Diego before she realised the need for similar services here in Australia. Please note that neither Community Resourcing or the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services are promoting or endorsing a particular product or organisation, but rather we're aimed to provide examples where smart assistive technologies are available both to service providers and directly to individuals in the area of mobility. It's my great pleasure this morning to welcome Kristee and Genny to today's presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us today. Okay, so we'll start off with spinal cord injuries in Australia. One person each day sustains a spinal cord injury in Australia, and many of them are occurring to young people, mostly males aged 15 to 24 years old. But in saying that, while they are traditionally our most common spinal cord injuries, there is a growing number of older people sustaining spinal injuries as well. Men account for 80% of all of these. More than half of traumatic spinal cord injuries are transport related, as well as then we have falls and water related incidents. In 2012, 52% of spinal cord injuries resulted in quadriplegia. That is when paralysis affects 4 of the limbs, so your arms and your legs. And more than 10,000 people are currently living with a spinal cord injury in Australia, which has resulted in our labour force participation rates following spinal cord injury at only 55%. The total cost of spinal cord injury in Australia is estimated to be somewhere between $2 billion annually. With improved emergency management, medical care and rehabilitation, life expectancy after a spinal cord injury has improved, leading to increasing prevalence in the future.
Okay, well after that introduction to ReWalk, ReWalk Robotics develops, manufactures, and markets wearable robotic exoskeletons for individuals with spinal cord injury. Their mission is to fundamentally change the quality of life for individuals with lower limb paralysis through the creation and development of marketing-leading robotic technologies. It was founded in 2001, and the founder lives in Israel, and he actually lives with quadriplegia. And he was looking at life within the wheelchair and just knew that there must be something else. And that's where the very first ReWalk came from. And now we're up to ReWalk 6.0. ReWalk has headquarters in the US, Israel, and Germany. ReWalk is a battery-powered exoskeleton. It allows people with spinal cord injuries to walk again. It allows them to walk up and down stairs. It allows them to sit to stand. And it also allows them to have access to areas that the wheelchair does not allow. It's the most customized exoskeleton on the market, and it's actually the only exoskeleton available in Australia for personal use and ownership, as well as used in other centers, well, our center, for rehab. The precise fit of the ReWalk optimizes safety, but it also allows the fastest walking speed with the most natural gait. There's actually one ReWalk user who used one battery life to do a 10K. So it's definitely a functional movement and not just one used for rehab only. So how ReWalk works. ReWalk has onboard computer system. It allows you to walk all day long with intermittent use, or allows you to walk for up to 4 hours with one battery life. So it also shows that the 10K walker was actually moving. It works with motors at the hip and knee. It's very customized, so you can change almost every parameter of it. You can change the hip flexion, the knee extension, you can change your speed, your delay between the steps, and many other parameters that also have to do with the weight of the user and how experienced the user is. It's a comfortable fit. The one that we're looking at right now is the newest, which is the ReWalk 6.0, and it does not touch the skin on the leg at any point. So you won't have to worry about skin breakdown. Users can stand upright, they can walk, they can turn, they can go up and down stairs, they can use this indoors, outdoors, within shopping centers, in social atmospheres. So the idea of the ReWalk is actually to have it as another component to your life instead of just a rehab tool. So there's several studies on ReWalk through the VA as well as outside that show that ReWalk has many health benefits, some of which that we've even seen within our center, which have been improvements in bowel and bladder function, many changes within mental health, improved sleep, reduced fatigue, reduced pain, and changes in lean body mass. So just to break down some of these benefits, the first, which I think is actually probably the biggest, is all the psychological components that go along with ReWalk. So we work, as you know, at Making Strides, which is a spinal cord injury recovery center. Almost every one of my clients on day one, when you go over goals, say that they want to walk. Not everybody is able to walk. With using the ReWalk, you're able to stand up and have that capability again. So to have the confidence, relationship-wise, independence-wise, sitting next to us, even listening to Kristee stood in the ReWalk after 10 years of being in a seated environment. Brought tears to my eyes, maybe not her. Let's go into the social aspects. So being able to just stand eye to eye, so many people in a wheelchair feel that especially in noisy environments, they're left out of conversations because conversations are at eye height. To be able to go to concerts, to be able to go to friends' houses with stairs, just to be able to be an inspiration to yourself, to your family, and to know that you're able to do something that you were previously told you weren't able to do. And the health benefits speak for themselves. With ReWalk, you walk with a natural gait. It works with a motion sensor. So the tilt sensor, every time you bring your crutches forward, that right step is going to go. After that, the left step is going to go when you bring your crutches the next time, and then consecutive stepping. If you don't tilt, it's not going to move. There's several studies that have showed that the vertical ground reaction force is similar to that of able-bodied, and they've done other studies that have monitored walking frames, standing frames, and just having people stand up, and they've showed that the force is very different, that is much more optimal within the actual locomotive movement of walking within a ReWalk, and also the weight of the ReWalk, which does stand itself. The fact that you are standing, definitely bone mineral density benefits, exercise, which speaks for itself, which also goes to psychological, but there's the conditioning, which also plays into the decrease in body fat. A lot of people with spinal cord injuries will say that worse than walking is actually the day-to-day stuff that we don't talk about, which is bowel and bladder function. So once somebody sustains a spinal cord injury, the nerves that control that part of the body no longer function the way they used to. There's studies that have shown that people with walking in the ReWalk for regular walking for 3 times a week are now able to have less bowel and bladder accidents, have more control, spend less time on the toilet and have it less consuming, and therefore have better quality of life because they're more active within a social community instead of having their days worrying about the unforeseen oh no's. Bone mineral density, absolutely. So many people with a spinal cord injury, that's something we worry about. We worry that as people age, that they're going to be too frail to stand, and then while you're waiting for this miraculous breakthrough, you may not get there because your bones may not take that type of load. And pain management, which is a big reason why a lot of people report having poor quality of life post-spinal cord injury, which has been shown to have improvements by being able to stand, walk, and actually get time on your feet. So who we're looking at right now is somebody who purchased the very first 6.0 ReWalk in Australia. He actually has a C7 injury, which ReWalk is designed mostly for those who have paraplegia, not quadriplegia. As you see, Nathan does have hand function, which is how he's holding the crunches. He has enough triceps that he can bear down and actually take his weight. And he's walking on an unstable surface on the grass right near the beach and trying to do things that he would never do if he didn't have access to the ReWalk. He's 7 years post-injury and pretty much had given up all hope on being able to stand and see the world near the beach at that level where he's towering me. So some of the others that you see right here, some people they come to making strides and they say, I want to try the ReWalk. Other people, as the woman in the center, say that I want to buy the ReWalk. But either way, it's a way that people can see the world in that position again. They can reap the health benefits, the mental benefits, and really just have a good time. It's a way to be social. To go into a bar and actually go up and see above the high bar stool is pretty special. We are a spinal cord injury recovery center, but we'd also like to see ReWalks available in hospitals, in other rehab centers, and in many other situations, and hopefully out within the public and not have it looked at as such a taboo device.
ReWalk, we have 3 units available here in our centre. So many users will come from all over, from Perth, from Northern Territory, Western Australia, and New South Wales just to try the ReWalk, whether they come for a week or a couple of months. And some people will go home with their own unit, but other people are really just happy to come and try it out and see what benefits they can get from a week or two of, continuous walking within the unit. But like Genny said, we'd really like to see them available, from outpatient services so that people can access them in their community to use, but also as an inpatient service as well in the rehabilitation phase of a spinal cord injury.
So this form that we're looking at right here, this is one that we would fill out in the clinic after somebody has already been had their stamp of approval by their GP. And then we go in and this is where we decide, is somebody suitable for the ReWalk? Not everybody is capable of using the ReWalk. As we said, you need to have upper body function, you need to have hand dexterity, and you also need to have determination to take on something that doesn't just do it for you. This is also a form that would be used within other clinics, within hospitals, if ReWalk were more widely accessible, which we hope in the future it is. So in here we're looking at people's bone density, we're taking a look at their blood pressure. I've also had a lot of people who have improved their standing balance and their blood pressure by being in the ReWalk. A lot of times if you're in a seated environment, postural hypotension, blood pressure drops quick. So a lot of improvements here, and this is where we also take a look at people's tibial and fibular length. So this isn't just a one size fits all or a small, medium, and large. We're actually breaking down each limb and trying to see pelvic band, where the pelvic band would sit, what the foot plate size is, if somebody can actively move their ankles, or if we can passively move them. So it's definitely a very specific set parameters that create such a nice walking environment and why it's so comfortable when you're in it.
Anyone that comes to Making Strides wanting to try the ReWalk will need from us, we'll send them a letter that they need to take to their GP to give approval to use it. So it will include the list of contraindications, so making sure that they have, they don't have osteoporosis or any sort of current fractures or things that might prohibit them from using ReWalk successfully. Approval from their doctor before they come here, as well as bringing their current bone density scan with them as well, is something that is really important when fitting someone for the ReWalk for the first time. All right, economic impact. So if just 10% of carers were able to return to the workforce because of their family member with a disability had appropriate personal support, there would be approximately a $3 billion boost to the economy. And then if 2% of people with a disability could come off the pension to work because they had appropriate employment training, there would be an injection of $2.5 billion into the economy. We think ReWalk is probably fits into both of these areas, especially with the second one. I know it says employment training, but we actually met a young guy who was a medical student at Griffith University when he had a spinal cord injury, and he came to us with his with an advisor friend of his from uni, wanting to find out about ReWalk and to see whether it would be able to help him in the future, that if should he pursue medicine and continue on, that he might be able to use something like the ReWalk in his daily life as a doctor while practicing medicine. And that's something that he's still pursuing at the moment. And we just read a nice little article on him the other day saying, you know, that he'd love to raise money to be able to buy his own. There's also someone in America who got insurance coverage for their ReWalk unit as a way to help them to return to work because they were spending too long sitting during the day in their job and they needed to be upright. So we really think that ReWalk could help contribute not only to people returning to work, but also their increase in independence, their quality of life, and you know, their carers maybe being able to return to work as well. The long-term medical complications associated with a spinal cord injury are vast and quite detrimental. There are approximately 1 or more hospitalizations per year following a spinal cord injury, for people with a spinal cord injury. I couldn't find any numbers in Australia for this, but in the US, the average annual healthcare cost for a person with a spinal cord injury is $67,000 in the subsequent years following their initial year of injury. In Australia, the numbers I've got for here are the lifetime cost of paraplegia is estimated to be $5 million, and the lifetime cost of quadriplegia is estimated to be $9.5 million. So there's definitely a very significant cost of healthcare and associated living costs following a spinal cord injury. We really believe that rehabilitative measures aimed at improving health and independence are critical in reducing those escalating medical expenses. Sorry, I just realised I didn't put some of my data in a second slide. The technologies that aim to improve mobility and independence are helping to counter this. So ReWalk, of course, is one that we see really helping to further this. Did you want to add to that, Genny? Improvement in...
The most common cause of hospitalization is UTIs, urinary tract infections. So to know that the most common cause is one of the benefits of the ReWalk, that it's showing that people are having far less incidences and occurrences of UTIs. A lot of people, the second cause is pressure ulcers, another thing that ReWalk helps you to eliminate because you're in a standing position, which means that you're getting more blood flow and circulation to the lower limbs, and so those legs aren't just laying there in a position where they're susceptible to having a tiny sore become the end. That's what Christopher Reeves died of. So definitely these costs are huge, but they don't have to be. Now, who we're looking at in the center is one of my favorites. This is Terry, and Terry did 50 sessions. She was one of the first ReWalk users to go through 50 sessions as a veteran at the VA in the United States. And Terry's in her mid-60s. When Terry came to visit us, she was pushing somebody's wheelchair instead of using her crutches. She was walking hand in hand with her partner instead of using one of the crutches, and just really reshaping the idea of what I thought ReWalk was, and the users definitely pushed the boundaries. But one thing that's also exceptional about Terry's story is she's a diabetic, an insulin-dependent diabetic who wears an insulin pump. And while she's walking, her pancreas is efficient and she no longer needs her pump turned on. So that was another benefit that I hadn't seen any literature on, but firsthand, with it being new, that's what she's experiencing. So every time she stands, which is on the daily, she gets to take a break from her pump.
Now, the person that I said received insurance coverage for their ReWalk in the US, that they were initially denied by their insurance provider coverage for their ReWalk, and it was a medical review board that overturned that decision. They examined all the up-to-date published studies and clinical evidence that demonstrated the clinical benefits of using ReWalk, and they determined that it's not an experimental or investigational technology, and they deemed it a medical necessity for this person and found sufficient evidence to support the use of his ReWalk. So they overturned that decision, and now hopefully that will then lead into other users of other insurance providers providing that same level of coverage for the ReWalk. Also in the US, the Department of Veterans Affairs, they announced a landmark policy not long ago that provides veterans across the US with access to evaluation, training and supply of ReWalk personal systems. This policy is exclusive to ReWalk Robotics. It's the first national coverage policy in the United States for individuals that do qualify for a ReWalk. Based on their data, the national policy now defines use of an exoskeleton as the standard of care in the United States. So we're really hopeful that this policy will pave the way for additional positive coverage decisions being made right here in Australia, especially with the NDIS being at the forefront of everyone's minds at the moment. We're hoping that, this is included in that. This is Terry again on the left, pointing to it. Terry on the left, she came out from the United States to meet with some of our clients here and teach the young guy on the right-hand side, Blake, who's using ReWalk for his first time, how to use it. So Terry also gave us a bit of anecdotal evidence, again, that supports the economic sort of impact and savings that her ReWalk has had. They sort of tallied up all her insurance claims before ReWalk for medical costs and hospitalisations, and then they tallied it up post her purchase of the ReWalk, and she's been saving her insurance company $30,000 a year in medical costs since using ReWalk. So we're hoping that, ReWalk is in its infancy, and as it continues to grow, that there will be more published data out there that really supports this and shows the savings that insurance providers are going to get from providing something like the ReWalk to people with a spinal cord injury. Do you have anything you want to finish up with, Genny?
I'd say let's get into the questions, if you know some of those, and then we'll continue from there.
Great. Thanks, Genny and Kristee, for a great presentation. Your passion and commitment to this project is obvious, and congratulations on leading the way in Australia to the introduction of exoskeletons. I've had a couple of early questions that have come through while you've been talking, particularly to you, Genny. The first question, you mentioned early in the conversation that the application isn't single use, and that you commented that there was someone who was using it for 10 kilometres in one use, which is extraordinary. But Stuart from Mount Isa has asked, what is the extent of the maintenance and repair that's required for an exoskeleton? And if you could give us some idea of how regular exoskeletons have to go in for servicing, for example.
There's a 2-year warranty on all of our ReWalks, and we service them
3 times a year.
Yeah.
At the moment, with only having 3 ReWalks out there, we personally do the servicing ourselves. We haven't needed to find ourselves some service providers in the various states, so we personally service them. Our most recent sale actually was to an electrician in Perth, and he undertook the service training himself, so he's now qualified to service his own ReWalk unit. But other than that, we service them 3 times a year, and there is a 2-year warranty and an ability to purchase an extended warranty as well. The ReWalks have obviously an onboard computer system that counts your steps as well, and it has what we call a GUI. It's a graphic user interface. So we can plug a computer into the ReWalk and do maintenance by, we can do it here in our centre in Making Strides for someone, who may be over in Perth, by remotely logging into their ReWalk and finding out what is wrong remotely and deciding whether the ReWalk needs to come back to us, or if there's a simple fix that the person can do at home.
Fantastic. Our next question is from Andrea. I believe Andrea is from our colleagues in Victoria at ISCA. Andrea has asked several questions about the use of ReWalk independently in a community setting. For example, she asks, is assistance required to put on the system, and does the user need to be accompanied by the assistant?
There's a couple yeses and a couple nos in there. Part of the training, there's basic training and advanced training for somebody when they're using a ReWalk to be proficient and be independent. Part of that is donning and doffing the device independently. So no, you do not need anybody to be there. But the other part of the training is companion training. And having a companion with you, maybe a loved one, a friend, a care, and it's just knowing that you have somebody there in case anything were to happen, and just to know that you're safe. That companion does not go hands-on, but they are trained of how to be there and how the system works.
So Andrea's got a part 2 to a question, yeah. And then I'll move to another question. So keep those questions rolling in. Our panel's quite full at the moment. But Andrea asks, I believe one of the barriers for use in the community settings is actually the walking speed and meeting the speed determined to be safe, for example, to cross a road. Could you comment, Kristee and Genny, on what is the average walking speed with the current model?
Well, walking speed, again, depends on the user, and not so much there's top speed, but a lot of people find, like Terry, who we're talking about, she likes to walk a little bit slower. I've walked across streets, and we've been able to walk while the walking man is flashing, and definitely cross the street within the safe time. It goes up to 2.9K. Which a lot of times is faster than a lot of elderly. And no, if you eliminate the delay and you have the walking speed at the fastest, then you can definitely cross streets and not be in any safety hazard or potential safety hazard.
These are all settings as well that are just changed by accessing the graphic user interface, so changing the speed of the device is easily done. And, we see it here on a daily basis, people walking in the ReWalk here at our facility, and you'd actually be quite shocked at the speed of it when it is turned up. Some, family members and loved ones sort of walking beside them struggle to keep up sometimes. So.
Terrific. I've got a question from Amanda. Amanda asks, could this be used for clients with progressive neurological disease, particularly where it affects their walking ability?
Again, we do, it's case by case, it's person to person, it's very subjective. So if the neurological disability also affected the upper body and the upper limbs, and somebody didn't have the triceps to support themselves with crutches, then no. If somebody did and it's more of just lower body impairment, then yes. And then a lot of people with neurological disabilities also have higher tone. So I would definitely say contact us, and I'd love to work out an evaluation and go from there.
Terrific. Rachel, thank you for your question. Yours is one around funding. Rachel asks, is ReWalk available en masse, or is there any idea, is this something that NDIS has indicated it will potentially fund, or are there other options to fund a trial? Thanks, Rachel, for that question.
Yeah, ReWalk is not available on the mass schedule, no. It is something that we would be hopeful is included in the NDIS once we can get a bit more literature together to help support this, it's definitely something we'll be working hard towards. We've had some insurance companies like Lifetime Care and the Transport Accident Commission in Victoria explore ReWalk trials for their clients. We're yet to be successful with having them provide funding for an actual unit for a user yet.
Lana asks a question about cost, and I guess that's a critical question, Lana, so thank you for that. We haven't been avoiding that direct question, but perhaps if you could answer for Lana, what would be the personal cost to purchase in Australia one of the current models?
Sure. So our most recent model is the ReWalk 6.0, and that retails at the moment for $89,000 US. And was there a second part to that question?
No.
No. Oh, well, there's the answer. $89,000 US.
Thank you. So, Jamie, and you're asking some questions about contacts, etc. They'll appear at the end of the screen, and also you can access that by downloading the presentation afterwards. I have another question from Maya on the Gold Coast. It is about NDIS again, and she's keen to see how some of her clients in her community service might be encouraged to think about incorporating more smart assistive technology like ReWalk in their care plans. And do you have any comments, perhaps, Kristee, on this one?
We attended the NDIS Innovating for the Future Expo here in Brisbane just recently, and that it was a really large expo and conference, really based around encouraging people to do that, to incorporate smart assistive technologies. And it was everything, you know, ReWalk was there, but it was everything even just down to computers that people can use and all the devices that are out there. And I think that there is so much more out there than just ReWalk that is really wanting to get included in people's packages and just be in people's minds for when they're putting these together with NDIS. But I really think the thing that is going to limit us is going to be the funding of the NDIS and how much money is actually available, because we're all there and the technology is there for everyone. It's just whether we can get the right funding for the right people.
I think we're just about to time, so I thank everyone who has posted questions for today's session and apologise for those that we can't get to. We'll certainly follow up after this webinar to those who have posted questions that we weren't able to get to today. But I'd like to particularly thank our two presenters today, Kristee and Genny. It's been a really great opportunity to learn more about ReWalk and learn more about the work that you're doing at Making Strides and really encouraging that independence and more enhancement of people's everyday lives. We thank you today for making the time in your busy schedule. We know you're running clinics outside the door in which we're presenting at, and we know that you've got many individuals out there who want you to go back and do your everyday work. So thank you very much for today, and thank you for your time spent with the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
So we've got a couple of upcoming webinars. We're running a series next month on remote worker safety and also the role that smart assistive technology is playing in the management of chronic disease. Look out further for those. There'll be more information available on the platform. I'd like to acknowledge also today the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology project team led by Liz Dodds for putting together today's webinar, and the members of the expert reference group. Some of those people are on the line today, and I thank you for your attendance, but thank you for your work on the reference group and particularly the work that you do around ensuring that the collaborative remains focused and diligent in our work. Today we've been joined by several students and interns that we have from QUT, and I'd like to acknowledge their support in today's webinar. They're students from Allied Health and Digital Inclusion students from Creative Industries. Particularly acknowledge the Queensland Government funding to allow the collaborative to be put together. And again, I'd like to particularly thank Making Strides presenters, Kristee Shepherd and Genny, Kroll-Rosen. Thank you today for your time and attending today's presentation.
Thanks again.
Thank you.